Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Footy Travellers podcast.
Well, Georgia, welcome to the Footy Travelers podcast. It's great to have you on and reconnect with you after quite some time now, after the Women's World Cup 2023, where we met you down in Australia and New Zealand. So, yeah, welcome.
Thank you so much. It's been a while. Yeah.
It
So crazy.
has.
It was so fast.
Since then, what have you been doing? Well, what have you been up to? How have you been since that tournament?
I mean, that tournament was so funny. So I dropped my job to go to the World Cup. So coming back was more like setting myself down and see exactly what I was gonna do, like job wise. Going back to school as soon as I came back, I had like a few days off before my classes start again. So
Mm-hmm.
it was like kind of hard going back from that and kind of like back to reality, I used to say. And but yeah, now I'm like more calm. I'm back in doing games for the NWSL.
Okay.
So we're in the end of the season. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's been
So
okay.
we met you as, after the first couple seconds, if someone then asked me, oh, well, tell me about Georgia, this woman you met down there in Australia, New Zealand, what does she do? I would say, oh, she is a sports photographer, a sports
Hmm.
photojournalist. But it sounds like you said you left a job to go do this project, and now you're back in school. So tell me a little bit about what your life looks like, actually, now that we have you here on the podcast, when it comes to how you balance your photojournalism with all your, the other stuff you got going on in life.
Yeah, so I was already in school before. I was doing a lot. I feel like photos and doing sports photography was more of like a second thing in my life than like my main job. I don't do like freelance full time yet, so it was more getting here and there and filling my free time, which I don't have or didn't
Yeah.
have at all, with like doing games and doing stuff like that. But I used to like nanny for this family before going to the World Cup.
Okay.
So I left that so I could like focus and doing that for the World Cup. Yeah.
Gotcha. So then tell me, how did you get connected to The Athletic and that project?
So it's crazy. Meg, one of the journalists for the Athletic, she followed me for a while. I follow her since the beginning, since I started doing sports photography here. And we used to always bump each other doing games when she used to live in New York. But we never like really sat down and have a conversation. But like I know who she was, and she used to follow my work until like one morning, on a Friday morning, she texted me saying that she had put my name for this like job opportunity, and if I was interested on it, if you could talk. And I was like, oh yeah, okay. She didn't give me much details. It was just one text. And then she was like, oh, just so you know, it's for the World Cup. And I was like, wait, what? Like, what? So then that's how I'll get connected with the Athletic.
Okay. So you kind of built, I guess, a name for yourself through your hobby
Yeah,
work, posting it on Instagram and or
yeah,
other venues, I'm sure.
yeah.
Cool, cool. How much of a soccer, football, footy fan would you say you are?
I mean, I'm from Brazil, so I feel like being a soccer fan is kind of like building us in your DNA. Even though you might say like, "Oh, I don't watch as much," but you know pretty much everything because it's part of our culture. I remember when I was little watching like the World Cup. I remember
Yeah.
like the streets would stop. We because in Brazil is a very cultural thing. So I remember like going to school and we had like games during the World Cup. We would leave early because everyone would like stop to watch the game. Doesn't matter if you like or not. It was part of like okay, everyone's gonna sit down here and watch this game.
Yeah.
And I played too when I was little. It was never like serious playing soccer, but I used to love playing it. And then I transitioned into play volleyball full time. But I used to like love watching it and following the game. So
Okay.
I'm a fan.
Yeah, I remember Mike and I being in Brazil 2014 for that World Cup and
Ugh,
being really not taken aback, but just I got, from my perspective, impressed and appreciated the fact that the country kind of shut down and everyone was glued to the television when the Brazil games were on.
Yeah,
It was
always.
again part of that culture. What was your first memory of Brazilian soccer? You know, the Seleção. I know the men's team was probably popular first. We'll talk about some of the differences between men's and women's soccer a little bit, but what were some of your first memories growing up?
Yeah, for like men's soccer, I remember the World Cup 2007. I was little. I remember being in my grandma's house in the street, and I remember all the boys had the like Ronaldinho haircut when he had the like half ball thing. I remember like that so clear in my mind. And I remember it's like running on the street, screaming. We pinned the streets like with Brazilian flag. That is like stuff I remember very clear. And for the women's, I remember 2011, the World Cup, the game against the US.
Yeah,
That, yeah, when they lost the game on the PKs, I was still young, but I remember clearly how devastating that was. But I was like so fascinating with the game and so fascinating watching women's soccer. Then after that, I tried to like keep tabs on it and try to follow. Because like in Brazil was not huge women's soccer. They used to not show as much as they are doing now. It changed a lot during the years,
yeah,
especially with coverage. So I remember like watching like tiny bits of that. I feel like in the internet, it was not even like on the TV. They would not coverage the women's like sports at all.
yeah,
But now it's totally different. So yeah.
yeah. If anyone saw the interview that Marta gave during this past Women's World Cup, you know, she made it a point to remind people, just that coverage wasn't there for women's soccer back in the day. Um, Help me understand how you got into photography, and is football, soccer, photos, are those your main interests, or do you just like sports in general when you're doing photography? And do you do anything outside of sports when it comes to your photography?
So I started doing photography just for hobby, just like doing for fun. When I was still in Brazil, I bought like I remember like saving all my money from my internship and like buying the like one of the best like cameras back in time, which was also a Canon. And I just remember taking that camera everywhere. So I used to like take pictures everywhere. I remember going to concerts and taking like pictures and doing all of that. So when I moved here, I used to every time I used to like travel with my friends, I used to take pictures. And my friends started like asking me like, why don't you like spend a little more time or a little bit more money and like studying a little bit more? Like you have eyes for it. Just try to do something with. And I was like, yeah, maybe I'll do it. Maybe I'll do it. And then I start just reading more about it, like how photography work and like what I used to do, and asking like people I used to follow, like, oh, you have any tips here and there? So that's when I started spending more time in photography and doing more. And then I started doing like portraits, and then that escalated to like doing weddings. And I remember when I did like my second wedding, I was like, I love photography, but this is not what I want to do it. I
Yeah,
just couldn't see myself doing weddings. I was like doing just because it was my friends and like I wanted to be part of the moment, but it was not something like I sat down like, yeah, this is what I want to do like forever. Like that was not what I want to do it. So I was kind of stuck. I stayed like kind of like a year not doing much of photography at all until like a close friend of mine, still to this day, she's a sports photographer as well. She started doing sport photography and she started doing games. And when we started talking about it, I was like, wow, maybe this sounds like fun. Maybe I should try. And that was actually during COVID. As soon as they
okay,
opened, yeah, it was 2020. As soon as they opened, I think like November ish, as soon as they opened the games for like photographers to come and it's still shooting from the like stands, I was able to like go to like a Philadelphia Union game. And I think it was like it was like a championship for the Shield.
yeah.
So I remember, yeah, it was insane. My first game was like a championship. I was like, what is this? I just have no idea how to do it. I was just going. And I
You
shot a
really
game.
went into it.
I just went it. I was like, maybe I'll just see how I feel during the game if this is something that would have been like fun for me to do it. So then I did the whole game and I absolutely love it. I love it. I was like, okay, maybe this is what I want to do it. And then I spent more time like trying to learn and like see exactly how it worked, but I knew I wanted to like try to focus like women's sports. That was always my thing.
Okay.
But since COVID happened, the only men's games were going on during the end of the year until like
Yeah.
2021. That's when I started doing like women's for the NWSL. I started going to like games and start shooting and start to learn how to work and like what cameras would be better, lens, all of that.
Yeah. So it sounds like your foray, if that's the right word, into photography was fairly recent.
Yeah.
Um, was the project through which we met you at Women's World Cup 2023, was that one of your first major publication projects? Did you do anything before that? Do you have anything coming up now that you've got that under your belt? What does
So
your
yeah,
professional photography kind of look like now?
yeah, I feel like from last year, like 2020, I took this picture of Christen Press at the Washington Spirits game. That was the picture that blew up everywhere. I got like
Okay.
awards for the picture. Like people started to know me for because of the picture. So I feel like from last year until this year, like things escalated very fast for me,
Yeah.
and I started like working with like the NWSL teams with the league because of that picture. So I feel like that opened like a lot of doors for me. And
Hmm.
once I started working with like the teams and like my photography like escalated too and like changed the way I saw everything. That's why I feel like I got the opportunity because like people could see like, oh wow, she has eyes for it, even though she
Yeah.
might be young on the sports photography world, but like she can see.
Yeah. Nice. While I'm thinking of it, I know you have your personal Instagram account, but you
Mhm.
also have your sort of professional photography
Yeah.
account. Where can folks go to see that eye, that special eye that you have for these images? Whether it's on Instagram or anywhere else.
Yeah, I have my website, which is just georgiasoares.com, which is, but you can also see on my photo Instagram, which is also Georgia Soares photo. That's where normally I put like sports photos or anything that I take it. And on my website, I have more for like portraits, events that I've done. I always try to keep it like there because I feel like my personal Instagram just posts whatever. I try not to like be very photography. I just try to post like dump stuff there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we'll leave some links to those profiles and that website in our show
Mhm.
notes so listeners can check that out. Um, you were mentioning that photo of Christen Press as kind of like that iconic one that got you some recognition. I want to ask you about another photo.
Mhm.
So, you got to shoot some pretty iconic moments at this past Women's World Cup. I think I remember seeing some great fan images that you
Mhm.
shot of both American and Swedish fans after the now infamous game in Melbourne. Um, there was a few shots of all those Australian girls in the stands cheering on the Matildas in their green and yellow. And then you also had a lot of really great in-game shots. Players like Haley Razzo come to mind from Australia. Daniela Arias, I think, on Colombia was a pretty, in my opinion, iconic image that I saw from you.
Yeah.
After they both scored some critical goals late in the tournament. Um, you also got to shoot the final and Spain's
Yes.
post-match celebrations. And there was this rather iconic photo you took of Aitana Bonmatí, who has since won honors like UEFA's Female Player of the Year. But in your photo, she's kind of hunched over. She's got that gold medal dangling from her neck, and she's looking up towards you with, I don't know, I would just say the sweetest smile as she's kind of taking off her shoes, her boots, and her socks. And it's just this, to me, again, in my opinion, just this very human image.
Mhm.
So, to get to my question, finally, I guess first of all, what was it like to shoot the Spanish team during and after the final, just generally? And then tell us about that Bonmatí photo
Yeah.
specifically and what happened with it after you posted it.
Yeah. So it's funny because Spain was, I think, like one of the teams that I haven't shot at all during the World Cup because of where they were staying, because I was mainly following the US. And after that, I was in Sydney for the rest of the tournament. So Spain was still in New Zealand. So I was very excited because like I love Barcelona, so I watched a lot of these players play there. So I was very excited to like watch the game and see them playing like live of like me right there and shooting the game. So it was like surreal. Like I feel like shooting just any final is surreal, but like shooting like players that you follow and you see them like playing for the like club teams is really amazing. So shooting that was, and it went fast. I it was really fast. The game like went in a blink of the eyes, and yeah, it was like amazing. And that photo
Yeah.
specific was really funny actually. One of fan was asking Atina about her socks, that they want her socks, and she was like, she would keep like looking in, because normally like after the final they let us photographers go on the field,
Uh-huh.
and we stay in like this like part of the field that we can take pictures. So but like all the players are everywhere, so then you gotta pick exactly where you're going, who you're gonna follow, or if you're gonna wait for something to happen. And I
Right.
remember this particular moment, I was the only one that was like looking at her because she was crunching down on her floor, like untying her cleats. And this friend was like asking for her socks, like pretty like hard. And she was laughing because she was like, "Why would you want my sock?" Kind of
Yeah.
moment. But like she went on, she took it off, she gave the sock, she signed the sock, and that's when she was like laughing about it. But yeah, and like she DM me after I post those pictures and asked if she could like post them because she liked them, which is
Nice.
also surreal. Like she wake up with like a text from like the MVP of the World Cup, like
Yeah.
saying, "Oh, I love your pictures. Can I post them?" I'm like, "What?" So yeah, it
That's awesome.
was, yeah.
Well, I mean, I have to ask, have you kept in touch with her since then? I mean, do you,
I normally I try not to like text anyone like
yeah,
that. Like normally when they keep touch, when she like DM me asking for a picture, say like, "Oh, I'm a huge fan. I follow you in Barcelona," and stuff like that.
yeah,
But that was it. I try not to
that's
text
fair.
anyone like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Um, I, I want to ask your insights, maybe your opinion on,
Mhm.
maybe a rather serious topic now that we've kind of brought up, the Spanish women's national team. Um, Surely all of us are pretty familiar with, the controversy that
Yeah.
not only it didn't start at the Women's World Cup, but it really blew up with the behavior of their former president, who, despite what he said during their, I don't know, big meeting, he has resigned.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, of course, I won't get into all the nitty gritty details of how that whole saga has unfolded, but
Hmm.
using Spain and their women's national team as kind of the example recently, uh, I want to ask, where do you think we are right now with women's soccer? And, where do you think it's going moving forward?
I hope like moves forward to like a better place, realistic for women's. Because I feel like this year in particular, we saw a lot of teams playing against their federations, and it shouldn't be like that. I feel like they should have the total support. They should just go there for the soccer, have whatever they needed to like fulfill the dreams, and they're representing the country. Like they don't need the pressure of the federation on top of everything that they have to do it as athletes. So I hope like things change. I feel like this World Cup was a big one because of that. I feel like people start realizing more and more what every single player or every single athlete is fighting against their like federations, but not only that, like what they represent for young kids. And they, I feel like a lot of media was more on top of this World Cup than any other World Cup, which was impressive. And like it's about time. I feel like
Yeah, right.
game has been going in a direction that women deserve all this coverage. They deserve to be seen. So I really hope like for the next World Cup, they don't have to worry about any federation. They don't have to worry about like fighting for the rights to be paid right, so they can like compete. They should just
Yeah,
worry about compete, just going there and trying their best. And the only like worry they have is like winning or not.
right. Yeah, playing the game that they signed up to play.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, let me ask. Let's, hypothetically, you're the leader or the president of FIFA. You know, You have the power. How would you deal with all the problems affecting women's soccer? Like, do you have any sort of solutions at the top of your mind that you've been thinking about and contemplating
I
specifically?
think first of all, start listening to these players. These players have been talking and complaining for not complaining, but like making the points for a long time. They have the worries. They have like they are the ones that are playing this game. They know exactly what they need. So I feel like listening to them first, setting down for every single federation if you need to, right? And
Yeah.
have a conversation, open conversation, talk about it. Maybe you're gonna like understand more coming from the players than you're gonna understand from the federation. Because sometimes the federation, their only worry is themselves, not the players. Exactly what kind of money they're gonna get it, and exactly where this money is going from, because we don't know for sure if it's going to the players, if it's going to better equipments or for the youth department. Like we have no idea.
Yeah. Or someone's pockets somewhere along the way.
Exactly. We don't
Yeah.
know. So I feel like transparency on the aspects, and realize that like you can't keep comparing like women's game to the men's game. And I feel like Gianni does that a lot. And it's like that's not it.
Yeah. Man, not to give him too much time or air on
Yeah.
this conversation, but the whole open the door, push the door open speech, whatever that was. When I
He
thought he
always
couldn't,
says something. You keep like how why you're so empowered doing this? Like it doesn't make
yeah,
sense.
no, it's funny, but it's also really not funny.
No,
Um,
yeah, exactly. It's that thing that like if you don't laugh, what are you gonna do? Because
it's
it's
just sad
surreal.
otherwise. Yeah,
Yeah.
surreal's a good word. Um, well, going back to the World Cup, the last Women's World Cup in general, you got to interact with, from your photos, surely, a lot of fans, but also a lot of players. That
Hmm.
Bonmatí experience is just one example, I think, of that.
Yeah.
Um, on this podcast, we kind of try to highlight the experiences amongst fans as the footy travelers. But I mean, players are footy travelers too. So feel free to think about the fans or the players when I ask you this. But what were some of the more memorable stories you heard or the interactions you had during your time taking, all those photographs, kind of like as a witness to other stuff that was going on? Did anything kind of
Mhm.
stand out that you'll always remember hearing?
Yes. I remember from the Philippines game against the Norway. I remember we were talking to some of the fans about the Philippines and how media there was no media coverage during the first games. That the media started talking a little bit when they won against New Zealand, and then they
Yeah.
started talking about like, oh, like this team. But like I remember seeing so many young kids at the game, so many Yankees at the game, like very happy. They all have flags, and like just the joy of watching the games. And like like the fans on that game, like the Philippine games was like wild. They all came through for the team, and they were so proud. They stayed to the end, even though they lost. They're still there, like holding flags, saying like you're like an example. You're like paving the like way in the future for young kids. So like I remember like having chills during the game because they would like chant and they would like sing the whole time.
Yeah.
Even like losing, they were there. They're like supporting the team. And I feel like that's the thing. That's the thing about the World Cup. It's not just winning. It's like the impact you're gonna leave behind, or impact you're gonna leave for the future. And seeing that, like seeing parents thanking players for like, oh, my little kid can see herself in you, and like she wants to do this. It was just amazing. And then actually, there's one photo I took of these young Philippine fans. That later I find out one of my friends, um, her friend plays for the Philippines, and those were her cousins.
Oh,
So she
wow.
got so she got a picture, a frame for her, and I was like,
Nice.
I was just like emotional. I was like, because I didn't know. I just took the
Yeah.
picture, and then like when she looked, she was like, "Wait, I know them," and then
Yeah.
she told me the story. So yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like those moments like is the ones that stick with you the most.
Totally. Yeah. That kind of brings up this thought in my mind. I think the more we do this, Mike and I travel around, it, it's funny how small of a world the footy fan world is actually. Of course, I don't mind it. Would love it to be bigger, especially in America.
Mhm.
But yeah, the impact you can have on the immediate circle of other footy fans with kind of whatever you do, whatever your little niche is. Anyway, your answer to that last question might bleed into this next one a little bit. But if there's something different that jumps
Mhm.
out to you, go ahead and share that. But I'm curious, what impressed you the most during Women's World Cup 2023, and what disappointed you the most?
I mean, Brazil disappointed me the most. I have very high expectations
Touche.
for them. Yeah, and I was kind of sad because I was in New Zealand for the most part of the group stage, and I was moving to Sydney for the group six, actually group eight. And I remember if Brazil had like went through, I was gonna be able to shoot the game, and I was very excited about it, the possibility of doing that. And then they lost the game one day before I was leaving, so I was like, ugh,
Hi.
just big disappointment, especially because I know it was gonna be Marta's last World Cup, so
Right.
that had like a whole weight on it. But I feel like just seeing like fans all around coming together for the teams, like I don't think I ever experienced that before because most of the games I've done was the US games,
Mm-hmm.
but in here in the US. So like I know I expected fans to come and watch the game and doing that. But like seeing uh, fans traveling from everywhere, like Colombia, like has so many fans
They had a
there for
really strong
oh
crowd. Yeah.
yeah, so strong. And they like sing the whole time, the whole game they sing. And it's just like I feel like always gives me chill, like seeing how passionate the fans are and how like far they travel for this team, just because it means so much for them. Netherlands too, like they had a huge fans before the game, like the game, and doing that was something that everyone talk about it too. Like, oh, if you get to experience the fans walking in, go outside and do it because it's amazing.
Yeah.
And it was truly like it was amazing. Just see them like all coming together for the game. It's just I feel always the fans is something that picks my eyes the most because like
Yeah.
you don't have an expectation, you don't know exactly what you're gonna experience. And but yeah, that was something. I think like one thing too that I didn't expect was when you actually mentioned the photo I took from Daniela Harris,
Yeah.
Arias. She actually DM me later saying that that was one of the best pictures she's seeing, and like she was one of her favorite pictures of herself, and she like thanked me a lot, and she was very emotional on the text, and I got emotional because it's something like you don't expect. You just you're doing there, like catching those moments, and
Yeah.
then like having players being like that deep about like something like, okay, this is my favorite thing, my favorite picture. So thank you so much for capturing that. It's just like it's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes you don't know in the moment the impact that, your effort or your work will have on someone else, down the road.
Yeah,
That
you're
can be
there
powerful.
just capturing those moments, and you don't even think much about it. You're just
Yeah.
like capturing, and then you realize like, oh, okay, that was something.
Yeah. Yeah. We all witness history, I think, in
Yes.
so many different moments during that tournament.
Yeah.
Um, you know, the footy's one thing, the travel is another thing for us at the Footy Travelers.
Hmm.
Mike's a big photographer. So part of me is kind of asking this question on his behalf. But for anyone who's kind of interested, what does it take to travel for something like a World Cup as a photographer? I mean, I feel like there's got to be a lot of equipment considerations, limits to what you can and can't bring through airports, on planes, and then into stadiums. What did all of that, I maybe like logistically look like for you, not
Hmm.
only as a footy traveler, but as a photographing footy traveler?
So yeah, I had to take all my equipments from here to US to New Zealand, then to
Hmm.
Australia. Traveling internationally was not much as a problem because they don't have much of like weight limits sometimes for your carry-on, and I
Okay.
normally carry all my gear on my carry-on. I don't dispatch that if I don't have to because I've heard enough stories and enough
Yeah.
nightmares about this whole thing. So I try my best. But that was a few times in Australia. They are very strict about the weight of your carry-on.
Okay.
And then I had to dispatch some of my gear, and that was the worst flights of my life because
You're just
even though you might,
anxious.
I was so stressed. One of the flights, it was like an hour flight. I think it was from Sydney to Melbourne, and I was literally losing my mind the whole flight because of my carry-on, because I had to
Yeah.
dispatch some of my equipment because I could not carry with me because the weight limit was like, I don't know, 7 kilos, and there's no way 7 kilos is just one camera and one
I was
lens,
gonna say
pretty
that's
much.
sometimes that's a lens. Yeah.
That exactly. So when I try my best, I try to like pay extra so okay I could take the carry on with me. Try everything. They do not budge at all. Um, so I had to dispatch some like two times, and I put my cameras like I tried my best, and thanks God nothing happened
Yeah.
because but it's just hard because you're gonna find like things like that, and there's no way for you to like really handle because they might swear on their lives that they're gonna be very careful with your stuff, but they're never that careful. Like only you know exactly how much you spend on the cameras on your gear to have them just throw your luggage during
Yeah.
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 So it was kind of like hard, but like from living from here to New Zealand, I didn't have a problem. And traveling inside New Zealand, I also didn't have a problem. They didn't really check my carry-on, so I was able
Hmm.
to take everything with me, all my lens, all my camera bodies, everything. But once I was in Australia,
Yeah.
that's when I had a little bit more problem. And the state that normally when you have the credentials, they're totally fine with what they would check your bags just in case you don't have like anything hidden that you're not supposed to take with you. But equipment wise, they're pretty much okay with whatever you take.
Yeah. How let me ask, how easy or difficult was it to get those credentials as a,
I didn't do the
tournament photographer?
process of my credentials. Who
Okay.
did that was the athletic. So they were the one that did the whole thing. But normally I'm guessing this because I don't know for sure, but thinking about the games I apply for like US games here in the US, it's normally just base information about like who you are and who is the media that we're working for, like the company. So they want all those information, like probably passport because it's the FIFA,
Yeah.
so they check all of that to make sure you're who you are and they have control of that.
Yeah. Well, based on your experience here in the States, doing shooting like NWSL games, as a freelancer, right? I mean, do you have to be affiliated with
I,
a,
you can do as a freelancer, but normally you also need like a media outlet so you can shoot.
hmm.
Yeah, but
So
now
maybe,
I don't. I'm normally now I'm just shooting for the teams. So I work for the teams or with the
okay.
NWSL. So the credential process is a little different. But like in NWSL itself, they are very open to freelancers to shoot their games. So
Okay.
you might not, you can have like just a blog or anything. You might be able to get like a media credential if you
Oh,
talk to
wow.
them. Everything, yeah.
I am considering heading out to the NWSL final in
I
San
think you should
Diego.
try
So,
because I remember last year for the NWSL championship, um, the girls I work for sometimes with the she believe Shea Butter FC, they are also on a podcast, and when they were able to go to the finals as well, there's other people doing podcasts as well that were in the finals.
okay. Good to know.
Yeah,
What about travel in general? You've been traveling around a lot this last year. Any maybe not specific to photography or traveling as a photographer, but just again generally, any big travel tips or kind of like light bulb moments that you've had that you might share with the listeners?
I
Don't
feel
do
like
this or
I feel like one tip that a friend of mine gave me because she's have done be like longer travels before. Always compression socks; those are
ah
life changing. Yes,
okay
especially when it's like long, more than like I don't know 5 hours. Your leg's gonna be like tiring. But I don't know. I don't think I have like traveling as much nail yet. I feel like sometimes I struggle, sometimes it's easy. Like going from here to New Zealand for me was fast. I didn't have any problem. I was able
yeah
to sleep. I was able to do everything. Now coming back from there here, that was the worst flight. of my life. I could not sit on the plane, not on my flights. I was tired. I was crampy. Like jet lag was like kicking me. I tried to even like check the time to know, okay, let me sleep now because then I'll be fine later. Nothing worked.
I was going to
Nothing. Like,
ask you, how bad was your jet lag?
oh my god, it was so bad. It was so bad. I got so sick when I come home.
Oh,
I thought I had COVID because I was like, there's no way I'm this sick. I was exhausted. I couldn't like stand up. I was so exhausted.
oh, wow.
I feel like I checked and I didn't have COVID. I was literally just jet lag kicking me. And I was just exhausted, like really exhausted. I think it like took at least like 3 days for me to feel like normal. Because I remember I came back on a Monday, and I remember on a Wednesday I had to go get my car because I left at my friend's house
Hmm.
because I live in the city, so I didn't want to leave my car in the streets for a whole month.
Right.
When they came to pick me up, I just could not function. I could not have a conversation. I was like literally seemed like I was dying in front of their eyes because I could not like just hold myself. It
Okay.
was awful.
So we weren't the only ones. I mean, we've joked about it on some of the episodes since then, and yeah, it was just brutal.
It was hard. I don't know. It was hard. I didn't think it was gonna be that hard because going there, I had no problem. I slept my whole
Right.
flight from like LA to Sydney,
Hmm.
easy. I woke up. I was almost there. Coming back, I could not. I was sleep like 30 minutes and wake up. 30 minutes and wake up. I'm like, just
Yeah.
let me sleep. I'll be fine.
Right.
And it was shorter flights coming back, and still I could not. I feel like my flight from LA to Philly was the worst. I that
Oh,
one I was struggling. It was like the longest 4 hours of my
that
life.
last leg. Yeah.
I could not
Oh,
sleep. I could not get comfortable on the chair. And I got lucky. That was like literally almost always one empty seat next to me in every single flight coming back. But it's still, I could not do anything. I'll try every
yeah.
single position, trying to walk, going to the bathroom, listening music, watching TV, reading book. Nothing was working. Literally
Yeah.
nothing.
Oh, yikes. Yeah, we got. I don't know. We got to figure that out somehow as footy
I know. Yeah,
travelers if we're going
I
to keep
really don't know.
crossing time zones and hemispheres, especially now that this whole World Cup 2030 thing is happening across hemispheres and time zones. Oh, won't dig into that, but what's next for you as a sports photographer, footy traveling photographer? Any big projects coming up to get excited about?
For now, just finishing the NWSL season. Yeah, the finals are almost here, playoffs are almost here. I feel like the next games are going to be big because it's decision making. We
Yeah.
only have two teams clinch for the playoffs, so Sunday is going to be huge
Yeah, it's
because
one of
then
the more competitive seasons this season, right?
yeah, we don't know what like any other four teams can make this playoff. So Sunday is most of the games are going to be decided. So then Sunday we're going to find out what the teams are going, who is not going, what
Yeah.
it's gonna look like. I'm gonna see if I can be able to shoot one of the playoffs. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna be able to be at the finals.
Okay.
I have another project going on the same weekend, so yeah.
I think I saw you post some photos of your work with like the NFL. You've been doing some NFL games too. Is that?
Not really. I haven't. I'm
Oh,
trying to get into it. It's a little bit harder to work with the NFL. So I'm seeing, trying to test the waters, see if I can get in there because I
gotcha.
feel like all these leagues you always need a media outlet to work for, but NFL normally works with like the biggest media outlets, which is Getty,
Yeah.
APA. So it's kind of hard to get into that. But that's my goal to try and shoot that. I've done it like NBA before, so I want to try a little bit every single sport, so I can like say, okay, I did all of it. I know exactly
Yeah.
what I'll stick with.
Cool. Yeah, I think we've mentioned this before on the podcast. Soccer in general, I would say, from like a supporter's perspective, a fan's perspective, and definitely when you take soccer in America and compare it to the other major sports, it's the sport where fans, kind of, us regular everyday people, we actually have the most access to teams, to clubs, and to the league, compared to, let's say, the NFL or the NBA. So that's definitely one of the things I think people can and should get excited about. And, one of my many little many arguments as to why soccer is just the best sport in the world,
Yeah.
and will
I
be
feel
the
like
most
it's way
popular
more.
sport in America.
Yeah, I feel like soccer itself is way more accessible between fans and players. And
Yeah,
I'm not calling like players meeting fans. No, I just feel like fans feel more connected to the players. They feel more like seeing closer for somehow. I feel like that's a big like difference too.
totally. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, we kind of do this with several of our guests. We have a little rapid fire lineup of questions for you. Just these little quick hits to kind of see where your head's at. And first thing that comes to mind, there are
Okay.
no wrong answers. We actually don't go through this very rapidly anyway. We've come to call it our slow trickle round of questions.
Okay.
Um, but I'm gonna hit you with some of these, and let's see how you're feeling about them.
Okay.
So, what is your favorite football soccer league to watch?
And never sell.
Okay, okay. Do you have a? I already know the answer, but favorite national team has got to be.
Brazil.
But then your second favorite national team.
Oh, it depends.
Aha.
Yeah, that's hard. I feel like it change every single year. I feel like
Okay.
it's more players, but like right now, I feel like Colombia is has a bit of my heart.
All right. So keeping it to South America.
Yes,
Um, I'm just going to ask this one as a yes or no because again, I feel like I know the answer. But is Marta your favorite player of all time?
yes.
Second favorite player of all time.
Ali Krieger.
Ah, okay. From the U.S.
Yeah, just
Okay.
because it was
I'm
the
gonna.
game of the World Cup 2011, I watch it, and
Yep.
she eliminated us.
Fair. Yeah. Don't hate the player, hate the game. I guess they say, right?
Exactly.
What was your favorite either city or location or just spot, however you want to define it, in New Zealand when you were there?
Wellington.
Oh,
Wellington was amazing.
tell me more.
I feel
Why?
like it's a very small city, very small island, and you can like walk around everything. And I did it. I had only had like 24 hours there, and I was able to see so much. I was
Okay.
able to walk everywhere. The energy, the city, the like, is amazing.
Yeah. How about same question, but for Australia?
I was just gonna say Sydney because I only spent time in like Melbourne less than 24 hours. So
Yeah.
Sydney is the one I have. Yeah.
Yeah. You were busy. You were busy.
Yeah, I stay most in Sydney for the second part. So yeah, it's an amazing
Yeah.
city. I can't complain. It was looking beautiful. There's so much to see and so much I wanted to see more, but I just didn't have the time for that. But it's
Right.
just like it's just beautiful. It's really beautiful.
We've talked about some of them as potential answers to this question, but I will ask you what is or was your favorite photo, like of your own, that you took from Women's World Cup 2023, the one you're most proud of?
I feel like the Danielle Arias one was
Okay.
the
Is
one I'm like most proud of it.
that the one where she's kind of like jumping up after
Yeah.
scoring or?
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's celebrating, yeah, the goal. Just
definitely.
because also the meaning of how much that photo mean to her. And I love that photo when I took. I was like, wow, I absolutely love this celebration. And then hurting for her, that was yeah special.
Yeah. What would you say is your must have travel accessory or gadget
Okay, must have.
other than a camera?
Ah, probably headphones.
Yeah. Okay. What, any specific type?
No, I think like one that you like the most, like comfortable. That's not gonna hurt your ears for too long.
Yeah. Are you an overhead or in earbud kind of?
Overhead,
Overhead. Yeah. Aisle or window seat?
window, always window.
Popular answer. Yeah, for sure. Favorite airline?
I feel like US probably Delta.
Okay.
Yeah,
Any reason why or
I feel like I never had a problem with Delta traveling here.
process of elimination?
Yes, yes, yes. And I used to be like American Airlines until I had like delays on these last few like weeks, and I was like, okay,
Yeah,
enough.
over it.
Mm-mm. I'm over it. Yeah.
Uh, what's been the best airport you've traveled through for any reason whatsoever?
Best airport. That's hard.
Mm,
I don't think I had any like best airport.
nothing stands out. No worries.
Okay, not if I can think of it.
Well, how about how about this then? To go with the logic from the last question, worst airport you've ever been through?
Oh my gosh, Charlotte,
Uh,
North Carolina. That's when I had like 2 flights delayed to go and 2 flights delayed to come back.
oh
I don't
wow.
want to travel there anymore.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
Be ready for some delays in Charlotte, I guess, if you go through there.
Ugh, yeah.
Which footy destination or experience is on the top of your bucket list?
My bucket list. Barcelona, going to a Barcelona game, and going to Emirates for Arsenal.
Hey, are you a Gunners fan as well?
Yes.
I knew I
Go
liked
Arsenal.
you. I knew I liked you, Georgia. All right, last one. What is your dream sort of piece or project? Like, what's the one thing you really want to work on before you can say your career is complete?
I feel like doing like a Premier League final, like a Champions. Yeah, that would be like one of the goals
Okay.
in my mind. Yeah, I feel like doing after doing the World Cup, I'm like I can do anything.
Yeah, right?
Yes, yeah. I feel like maybe like Olympics, but that would be different. I feel like it doesn't really go along.
Yeah.
But like going with soccer, that would be like a Premier League final. That would be
Okay.
Champions League. Yeah.
Nice. I mean, from my personal opinion, keep doing what you're doing. You'll be noticed, and
Thank you.
you'll be invited to the Champions League final
Thank you.
eventually. Probably sooner rather than later.
Hopefully. Fingers
Hopefully.
crossed.
Well, Georgia, this has been absolutely fantastic. It's great to reconnect with you, chat more about your experience as a footy traveler and footy photographer. Um, Listeners can check you out. I think you said georgiasoaresphoto.com is the website.
No, just georgiasoares.com for our
Okay.
website and Instagram, Georgia Soares Photo.
All right. And again, we'll leave some links to those places in the show notes. But again, thank you. Wish you all the best in your future endeavors, taking some of the best photos of the footy that we've ever seen, to be honest.
Thank you so much for the time and for like rescheduling this a lot because it's been kind of hard, but I appreciate it. And hopefully we'll see some of the travels again. Who knows?
Let's do it. Let's reconnect out there in the real world.